Okay. They searched the farm buildings, but there was no sign of her. In the morning, they searched the yards and the orchard and the paddocks and even the far fields, but Polly was nowhere to be found. Abigail was heartbroken. "Oh, Dad," she said at last. "She must have been taken, mustn't she?" She could not bring herself to add, "by the fox," but her father knew what she meant and thought it was very likely that Polly had ended up as a square meal for one of those Red Raiders. Though in fact, he thought, we've not found any evidence of that. No sign of a struggle, no scatter of black and silver feathers. "It looks bad, Abby," he said, "but she had some happy times, didn't she? Better than being shut up in that dog kennel, eh?" And when Abigail did not answer, he gave her a big hug, and then she had a good cry. "There'll never be another hen like Polly," she sobbed, and to this there was no answer, for it was patently true. "Pity Abby let that speckled pullet go to the Duke," he said to his wife later. "She might have trained her up, say something." "It isn't just the talking," his wife said. "She really loved that Polly. It wouldn't have mattered if she'd never said another word. It's hit her hard, poor girl." Prudence and Bob were, of course, aware of Abigail's unhappiness at the loss of her pet. "I expect you'd like to have Benjamin back now, wouldn't you, Abby?" said Prudence. "No," said Abigail listlessly. "You can have him." "For my own?" "Yes." "What about Fatso?" "You can have him, Bob," said Abigail. And when the new hamster owner had gone off, bursting with pride, she said to Prudence, "You can help him You can help him with the feeding and cleaning out, can't you?" "Oh yes," said Prudence. "And thanks, Abby. But couldn't you get Polly's daughter back?" "From the Duke, you mean?" "Yes." "No, it wouldn't be the same. Anyway, I told him he could keep her if he wanted to." And indeed, it was soon plain that he did want to. A couple of days later, a letter arrived, the envelope addressed to Mr. and Mrs. William Brown, Miss Brown, Miss Prudence Brown, and Master Robert Brown. "Who in the world's this from?" asked the farmer. Prudence looked over his shoulder. "They haven't put Abby's name in," she said. "Let's see," said her mother. "Ah, yes, that's the old-fashioned way, you see. It's because Abby's the elder girl." She turned the envelope over. Its flap was stuck down with sealing wax, the wax impressed by a crest of arms. "It must be from your noble friend, Abby," she said. "You'd better open it." Inside, there was a copy of a typewritten circular which said that on Saturday, in a couple of weeks' time, the villagers of Dumpton-upon-Severn would be holding their annual fete in the grounds of Sevenside Castle by kind permission of the Duke of Severn. There would be skittles and coconut shies and pony rides and all kinds of sideshows, including a juggler, a fortune-teller and a ventriloquist. At the bottom of the notice was a penned message. It said, "Do come. Grace and I make an excellent team. C.S." "I don't think I want to go," said Abigail. "I do," said Prudence. "And me," said Bob. "Oh, come on, Abby," her father said. "It'll make a nice day out." "It'll take your mind off things," her mother said. For Prudence and Bob, the 2 weeks before the fete flashed by. For Abigail, the days dragged. "Everybody seems to have forgotten about you now, Polly," she said miserably to herself. "I'd have expected Galahad to be missing you like mad, yet he doesn't seem to be. But I do." When the day of the fete came, and they all arrived at Sevenside Castle, the first person they saw was a majestic figure of a man. Large and portly and red-faced. Oi, where are you off to? Oi! Thank you. With a red face, with carefully plastered down hair and wearing a wing collar, a black jacket and pinstripe trousers. What are you doing? He sat at a little table beside the main gate, taking the entry fee. "I thank you, sir," he said, as Farmer Brown handed over the money. "Enjoy your day." And there was no mistaking that plummy voice. "Was that the Duke?" Prudence whispered. In fact, the Duke was nowhere to be seen. They went round all the sideshows, and Prudence and Bob had pony rides. "Do you want a ride, Abby?" her father said. "Not really," said Abigail. "Well, come with me to the fortune-teller then," said her mother. "Oh, all right." The fortune-teller sat in a little dark tent with a crystal ball on the table before her. She stared into this for some time without even looking at Abigail, and then she suddenly said, "You've lost something." "Yes," Abigail said, and then she made herself ask, "Will I find it again?" The fortune-teller did not answer. Instead, she stared into Abigail's eyes for what seemed ages, and then, slowly and dramatically, she said, "Sometimes it rains cats and dogs, but not always." "Whatever did she mean, Mum?" Abigail said afterwards. "Goodness knows," her mother said. "I don't expect she's a proper fortune-teller, probably the butler's wife. But she knew I'd lost something. That's a pretty safe thing to say. You're off. Everyone loses something now and again." Last of all, the Brown family came to came to the ventriloquist tent. It was quite a big one, and outside it there was notice. It said, "The famous ventriloquist, Sir Laugh-a-Lot, and his amazing talking hen. Performances every half hour." Abigail's father looked at his watch. "It's getting on 3:30, he said. So they waited outside the tent, and soon a little queue, hello, soon a little queue formed behind them. "Where's this Duke? Don't you dare know. Where's this Duke?" asked Prudence as they stood there. "I haven't seen him yet." "You soon will," said her father. Once inside, they sat facing a little curtained-off stage. Then the curtains were drawn back to reveal a strange and unexpected scene. Sitting on a chair in the middle of the stage was a figure dressed from head to toe in a suit of armour. The armour had patently been designed for a much shorter man, so it fitted very poorly, with great gaps here and there, but the helmet which the figure wore was a particularly fine one, surmounted by a white horsehair plume. The visor was down so that the face could not be seen. On one mailed fist stood Grace. Can you see? "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen," said the ventriloquist, in a voice that Abigail instantly recognised, even though it rang hollow within the helmet. "May I introduce Grace, the amazing talking hen? Say hello, Grace." There was a pause, and then in high-pitched tones, equally hollow, the Duke's voice said, "Hello." It was obvious to everyone where the second voice was coming from, even though the Duke jerked his fist a little as Grace spoke, so that she had to give a kind of bow to keep her balance. "Now then, Grace," said the Duke in his ordinary voice, "why did the chicken cross the road?" And then in the high voice, he replied, "To get to the other side, of course," while jiggling Grace up and down in time with the words. And in this manner the show went on, laced with a whole series of dreadful jokes. Some knew, some suspected that it was the Duke of Severn inside the suit of armour, but no one laughed because the jokes were so feeble. As a display of ventriloquism, it was embarrassingly, pathetically bad. Only a small child could possibly have believed that the replies came from the mouth of the speckled hen. Indeed, on the way home, Bob announced that he had liked the man in the armour the bestest, more than anything else. The Browns, having been first in, were the last to go after the act ended, and before they left the tent, the armoured figure came clanking down from the stage and took off his helmet. "Phew," said the Duke of Severn, producing a handkerchief from within his breastplate and mopping his brows. "It's jolly hot in there." And he bowed in his courteous way and gave a mailed handshake to Mrs. Brown and Prudence, whom he had not met before. "What did you think of it?" he said to Farmer Brown. "Oh, very good," said Abigail's father. "Grace behaved very well, didn't she?" "Didn't she just let out one shout of 'Duke' halfway through, but then she nearly always does. Haven't got her to say anything else yet. Good dodge of mine wearing that armour, don't you think, Abigail? Got several suits of stuff in the banquet hall, don't you know? Suddenly thought, by Jove, with a helmet on like that, no one could possibly see my lips move. Smart idea, what?" "Yes," said Abigail. "Well," said the Duke, "it's very good of you all to come and support our fete, and I hope that one of these days you'll come and spend a day here by yourselves, and I'll show you round. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must get ready for my next performance." He bowed and turned away, but as they were leaving the tent, Abigail heard him call her name. She went back in. "When you do come, Abigail," said the Duke, "bring Polly. I'd love to see her again." The words brought such a lump to Abigail's throat that she could only nod. "So would I," she thought. "So would I." Let me show you what Bella's got up to.